Tonight, every dollar in your bank account is gone. It didn't disappear, it was converted. Your money now belongs to a global digital system. At the same time, two nuclear nations just erased cities from the map. And within weeks, 2 billion people are dead. Is this the collapse of civilization, or the beginning of something Scripture already warned us about? This is episode 6 of Birth Pangs of the End Times. In Revelation chapter 6, the Lamb opens the seals, and war, famine, and death are released on the earth. But what would that actually look like in the real world? A collapsing dollar, a global central bank digital currency, nuclear war between India and Pakistan, crops destroyed, nations trembling. This is how the birth pains begin.
Katie's Epiphany, Heaven and Earth. The Devil's Domain in the Spiritual Realm, 2023. As the xylovirus pandemic subsided, Satan held a meeting with the 70 principalities who oversee all nations on earth. They sat around a U-shaped mahogany conference table with Satan in the center.
In the last 60 years, we've almost achieved my goal of centralized control over all nations. In this meeting, I'll start by listing your successes, and then I'll give direction for what still needs to be done.
Satan's successes.
We've made the United Nations, International Monetary Fund, banks and corporations into international entities that we control. These give us partial global control over earthly governments and their finances. I say partial because there are still pockets of resistance, with 11 nations stubbornly holding on to their national sovereignty. I'll discuss my plan to remedy this in a minute. In the last 2 years, the xylovirus pandemic provided invaluable momentum toward global governance. The pandemic vaulted the visibility and importance of the UN's World Health Organization in the world's eyes. As a result, human leaders in each nation are now approving a global pandemic treaty, which includes surrendering their sovereignty to the WHO if there's another pandemic.
Around the table, 71 devils smirked and laughed.
You said, if there's another pandemic? Our labs have already produced new bioweapons for us to release when you give the word.
Yes, when the time is right, we'll release them. But for now, we're still consolidating our gains from xylovirus. We also had limited success implementing the digital ID and vaccine passport. But there was still too much pushback against this technology, especially in the USA.
Heads lowered and shook in frustration around the table.
Why do you tolerate the USA? Just let us take them out, and all the rest will fall into line.
Don't worry. The digital ID is an absolute prerequisite for our global control. So, in the next crisis, we'll make the USA beg for digital IDs.
Satan's goals.
Here are my remaining goals to be accomplished ASAP, but not later than 2030. First, consolidate all financial systems into a centralized global system with a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. Outlaw all other currencies. The control mechanism for this global economic system will be the requirement for each person to have a digital ID to authenticate them before they can do any transactions in the global CBDC system. Second, bring all national governments under the sovereignty and laws of the United Nations. Individual nations will fit within one of 10 regional UN governments. Regarding the 11 countries who stubbornly hold on to their national sovereignty, first, we'll break their economy. If that doesn't bring them into compliance, they'll suffer one relentless attack after another until they do. We have many options, including attacking their electric grid, their water system, their computer systems, or a bioweapon designed to target their specific ethnic group. We'll use whatever measures are necessary to make all nations submit themselves to UN governance. Third, Establish centrally managed media programming in every language to educate, entertain, and control humanity. Outlaw dissension and other forms of hate speech. Monitor all spoken and written communications to detect people who threaten our global governance. Take action to neutralize threats to our control. And finally, my fourth goal is to establish one global religion to eliminate religious conflicts. It must promote diversity, equity, and inclusion of all people. Hateful, exclusive religions that won't promote DEI must be eliminated.
Satan's methods.
To achieve these goals, start by using nonviolent tactics such as media campaigns, economic pressure, and government regulations. But when nonviolent methods don't achieve my goals, I will allow the use of violence, including economic collapse, war, famine, and pandemic. Finally, each of you must turn your nation against its Jews and Christians. Demonize them through the media, like how the Prince of Germany demonized the Jews in 1930s Germany. That was epic.
Heads turned to see the spiritual Prince of Germany stand and take a bow. Devils applauded.
But try not to kill righteous Christian disciples. Torment them to make them either lose faith or pollute their testimony. If you can't get them to recant their faith through persecution, tempt them to backslide into sin. Then either way, their death won't count against us in the third box's tally. Pressure all Christians in every way possible. Most will compromise, joining the crowd to save their skin or to make their life easier. When they do, be sure to reward them. And have your ministers proclaim how God has blessed and prospered them for the choice they made. This will both reinforce their decision and encourage others to join them. There will be a few who still won't comply. After all other efforts fail, you may kill them as examples to the rest. But remember, righteous martyrs will go against us in the third box's tally. So don't kill them unless you've tried everything else and they're still a threat to our goals.
Uncle Andy's cabin, November 28th.
Come in.
Ethan entered. Uncle Andy greeted him with a nod, gesturing for him to sit in the middle rocker near the wood stove. Katie, her movements fluid and graceful, was in the kitchen. She brought mugs of chamomile tea, placing them with a soft clink on the table, then took her place to Ethan's left, keeping her scar from Ethan's view.
It's good to see you again. Thanks for accepting my invitation.
It's my pleasure, sir.
After sipping his tea,
With all the shortages everywhere, how's it going at KMS?
Ethan relaxed, warming his hands and feet by the wood stove as he spoke.
We're still getting fuel and supplies because we're deemed critical. But on a personal level, the pinch for groceries and gas is real. I'm hopeful the new digital currency will solve the economic and supply chain problems caused by the hyperinflating dollar. Hopefully, things will get better soon.
He's relying on the world system. It doesn't sound like he's a believer. Apparently, Andy was thinking the same thing.
Ethan, as a pastor, I'm curious. What's your spiritual background?
Like most people of Mexican descent, I was raised Roman Catholic, but I haven't been active for a long time. I guess I try to live by the golden rule and have a clean conscience.
Okay, thanks for your honesty.
Andy loaded more wood into the stove. They both sipped their tea.
Ethan, would you be interested in helping me finish a cabin nearby in return for lodging there?
Ethan's face lit up.
Yes, absolutely. I thought living on a sailboat would be cool, but it's not insulated very well, so it's not cool. This Texican boy has been flat out cold.
After finishing their tea, Andy handed Ethan a 12-gauge sawed-off shotgun, a can of bear spray, and a small bell on a string.
It's loaded with alternating double-aught buckshot and slugs. As a former Green Beret, I assume you know how to use this.
Yes, sir, I do.
As Ethan slung the shotgun over his shoulder,
This is brown bear country. They're like grizzly bears, only much bigger. An adult stands over 9 feet tall, and their claws are as long as your fingers. Most of them are afraid of us, but you never know when you'll surprise a protective mama with cubs, or a wounded bear in a mood to get even, so we always go out prepared.
Yes, sir.
Depending on the situation, use the bear spray as your first option. If it's life or death, use the gun.
Ethan nodded.
What is the bell for?
Tie it on your belt so bears can hear you coming and run away. It prevents you from surprising a bear in areas of thick underbrush where visibility is practically zero.
Ethan followed Andy out the door, with Buster bounding ahead. Katie went to the sink. Her hands worked through warm, soapy water as she washed their tea mugs. Seems like I'm always washing dishes, at work and at home. But I'm content with my situation. I'm loved and respected in both places, even though my worldly position is humble. I don't earn much money, but my needs are all met. My conscience is clean. I'm rich in my soul. Thank you, Lord, for all you've given me. I trust you with my life. My future is in your hands. In her heart, the Spirit of God asked her,
Katie, what is success? Is it measured by the world's standards or by God's favor and approval?
I've had both. I had worldly success, and now I enjoy God's favor.
Contrast the two. Which kind is lasting, secure, pure, and fulfilling?
Worldly success wasn't lasting or secure. They took it from me for following what I thought was right. Is God's favor lasting and secure? Yes, as long as I follow what's right. But not if I choose to do evil. So, they're both dependent on my decisions. Was my worldly success pure? It was pure and innocent while I was naive about the world system. But to keep my position in the army after I lost my naivete, I would have had to compromise that purity. In contrast, God's favor is always pure, and it depends on me continuing to pursue truth and purity. Both are fulfilling, but in different ways. In the past, I enjoyed universal public praise for my rank and exploits as an Army medevac pilot. But today, the public looks down on me as an Army reject who's lucky to have a job washing dishes. Instead of my former worldly glory, I now enjoy humble fellowship with like-minded believers and the Holy Spirit.
Last month, while you were deer hunting, you wondered, what's the goal of my life now? After you didn't get the job at KMS, I said you've got some lessons to learn before I give you the desires of your heart. You've done well and learned those lessons. So when I give you the desires of your heart, remember this conversation. Continue to seek genuine success that is truly lasting, secure, pure, and fulfilling. In the world you'll have tribulation, but you must overcome the world.
Awestruck, Katie realized she wasn't just daydreaming. She'd just had a conversation with the living God. Immediately, she dried her hands and captured every word in her journal while it was fresh in her mind. She didn't feel anything different in the physical realm, but her heart was doing cartwheels. She realized God was always present with her, always aware of her situation. He heard her every thought, and that God loved her. Like a sponge, her soul absorbed his favor until she was saturated with joy. An hour later, one set of heavy footsteps on the porch announced their return. She put her book down, then stood abruptly as Ethan entered with Uncle Andy cradled in his arms.
I twisted my ankle. Might be broken.
He grunted in pain as Ethan carefully set him on the sofa, propping up his foot.
We can take him in for an X-ray after I catch my breath.
2 hours later, the doctor's verdict was a relief.
A bad sprain, but no broken bones. Keep it elevated, rest, and ice, or an ACE bandage for swelling. It should heal in 4 to 10 weeks.
Back at the cabin,
I notice some comfrey growing alongside the trail. I'll make a poultice. It'll help with pain and shorten the healing time, as long as you don't re-injure it.
the next day, Ethan tied his sailboat to Andy's dock and carried his few belongings up to the high cabin. He visited Andy daily to enjoy a hot drink, change his poultice, see Katie, and chat about his progress on various projects. Ketchikan, Alaska, January 8th. Uncle Andy sat near the wood stove, nurturing a cup of mint tea while Katie replaced the comfrey poultice on his ankle. They heard a vehicle approaching the cabin. They weren't expecting anyone, so Katie looked out the window to see who it was. She didn't recognize the man, but he looked vaguely familiar. As he walked up the hill, Katie realized it was Bill Cassidy, the chief pilot at Ketchikan Medevac Service. Her stomach turned over. Why is he here? Maybe he's looking for Ethan. As he stepped onto the porch, Katie opened the door.
Hi, Katie. You may remember me. Bill Cassidy from the Ketchikan Medevac Service.
She answered politely, "Yes, I remember you." But she was thinking, why are you here?
Katie, I'll get right to the point. Our situation has changed, and I've got a pilot opening for you if you're still available.
In Katie's heart, the clouds parted, a brilliant light shone down from heaven, and a million angels erupted into the Hallelujah chorus. Smiling from ear to ear, she said, "Would you like to come in for a cup of mint tea?" Instead of having all the instructor and training resources of the U.S. Army to train her, Katie had to learn to fly a new type of helicopter, along with learning all the regulations and procedures necessary to pass an FAA single-pilot instrument check ride on her own. Company policy also required her to get certified as an emergency medical technician, so she could help her flight medic triage and prepare patients for transport. She hit the books, practically memorizing the helicopter operator's manual before Bill sent her to 4 weeks of comprehensive pilot training at the helicopter manufacturer's factory training facility in Texas. Upon her return, she piloted 3 flights, a daylight, a night, and a night instrument flight, while Bill rode in the left seat, checking off the list of everything she needed to know about flying in the local area. This included emergency procedures, instrument approaches into Ketchikan International Airport, wilderness landing procedures, and local airport rules. After completing all her training, Bill released her to start working shifts. Bill assigned his most experienced flight nurse, Sandy Cohen, to fly with his newest pilot. March 18th. Katie's first shift started at 6 a.m. From the first time they met, there was friction between Katie and Sandy. Their first medevac call was for an obstetrics patient who was experiencing delivery complications in Catan. They arrived at sunset. Rather than trusting Katie to fly the quick trip back to Ketchikan at night through the clouds, Sandy worked with the mother and the midwife until midnight to deliver the baby in the village. Sandy monitored mom and baby until sunrise. With everything looking normal, the mom declined a trip to the hospital. Sandy and Katie returned to Ketchikan without a word spoken. After completing her post-flight checklist and paperwork, Katie went home. Sandy left a message in Ethan's inbox asking him to meet her at the Blue Mountain Coffee Shop at 5 p.m. March 19th. When Katie got home, she showered and went straight to bed, exhausted physically and emotionally. When she woke up, Uncle Andy had dinner ready. It smelled delicious. After dinner, she petted Buster, who curled in her lap as she mulled over the situation.
How'd your first shift go? What's bothering you?
Katie explained her concern. For some reason, I think my flight nurse was afraid for me to fly her and the patient back last night.
Did you give her any reason for such a feeling?
No, everything on the flight out to Catan went smoothly, no problems. I don't understand it.
Sometimes it isn't something you did, but it's who you are. An ancient Chinese sage once said, "If you care about what other people think, you will always be their prisoner." He may not be quoting from the Bible, but he was right.
They both sipped their coffee.
Remember the 2 rules I gave you before you shipped out?
Yes, do everything as unto the Lord and always choose to follow the truth. Andy chuckled.
You can't control what others think, but if you do these 2 things, you can always have self-respect and a clear conscience, so just keep following the 2 rules and you'll be fine.
Thanks, Uncle. Hopefully things will get better. She hugged him. Now, If you can tell me how to fix my body clock that's all screwed up with this weird shift work. While Katie was talking to Uncle Andy at home, Ethan was meeting Sandy at the Blue Mountain coffee shop.
I heard you recommended Katie to Bill, and that's how she got hired. How do you know her?
She saved my life in the war. She was a co-pilot on her first medevac mission. They were sitting in a hot LZ when her Black Hawk got hit by an RPG, killing the pilot. She had to wait for me to board her aircraft, but even after being severely wounded and with enemy soldiers all around, she still waited for me. I was left alone in the LZ after everyone else boarded, so the enemy would have certainly captured or killed me if she hadn't waited.
Wow, that's quite a story.
That scar on her face? The first time I saw her, it was a gaping hole from RPG shrapnel.
Ethan could see the wheels turning in Sandy's head. Then she continued.
So, how come she didn't serve out her whole Army commitment? How'd she get out so young?
After earning a Distinguished Flying Cross and a Purple Heart, the Army kicked her out when she wouldn't take the xylovirus vaccine after it gave one of her fellow pilots a stroke.
That's understandable. I wouldn't take the jab either.
Sandy sipped her coffee.
But I have to confess, I'm having trouble flying with Katie. It's not her, it's me. You see, early in my career, another young female pilot crashed us, killing the patient and putting me in traction for 2 months. It was 11 months before I was back on flight status, and apparently I still have some PTSD about it. I guess I haven't fully recovered en la cabeza.
Ethan nodded sympathetically.
So, would you switch pilots with me?
Sure, I'd like to fly with Katie, but I don't know if Bill would go for it, since Katie and I are both new at KMS.
He will, if I admit how I feel.
Starting at 6 a.m. the next morning, Katie and Sandy were on duty. At 9 a.m., Katie was reading in the crew's ready room. She didn't see Ethan enter the building. Sandy and Ethan went into Bill's office and closed the door.
Oh boy, what's up? Is this going to hurt?
I have a problem, and I'd like to propose a solution. As you know, I was severely injured in a chopper crash 5 years ago. Apparently, I've still got some PTSD from that event, and here's my problem. The pilot who crashed was a pretty young female, and flying with Katie triggers irrational fears that I can't control. I have no complaints or criticisms about the way Katie flies, but I can't help it that I have these fears when I fly with a young female pilot.
Right. So that's it. I wondered why you two stayed in Catan until daylight.
I have nothing against her. She's a good pilot. But because of my problem, Ethan and I would like to switch pilots. He's ridden in the back of her helicopter before, in the war, and he's okay with it.
You're lucky, Sandy. If that mother would have needed transport after dark, you would have had a tough decision to make. You would have either had to white-knuckle it on the ride back with Katie flying, or stay in Catan, endangering the lives of that mother and her baby. You should have told me your concern when I made the assignment. Making a change now is going to raise questions that aren't fair to Katie.
Bill took a minute to ponder his decision. Ethan and Sandy waited quietly.
Okay, I'll swap you two and update the schedule, effective immediately. But when we explain this change to everyone, let's say it was because Ethan wanted to fly with Katie. It wouldn't be good for people to hear that Sandy didn't want to fly with Katie when Katie's only fault is that she's young and female. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Loose the Four Horsemen, 2 billion people. From Revelation chapter 6, verses 3 to 8. War. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come," and out came another horse, bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that people should slay one another, and he was given a great sword. Shortages and famines. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a black horse. And its rider had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures, saying, A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and wine. Death and Hades. When he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him. And they were given authority over 1/4 of the earth, to kill with sword and with famine and with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth. Ketchikan, Alaska, April 23rd. Uncle Andy's birthday was approaching on May 1st, so after her shift, Katie went shopping for a gift. Dressed in her orange flight suit, she walked up Main Street with a sense of purpose and pride. She stepped into a local gift shop, the warm breeze playing with her long black hair as she entered. The tourist season hadn't started yet, so the customers were all locals. When they saw Katie, who was obviously of local Native American descent, parents in the store nudged their children, whispering and pointing at her. Katie smiled at them as she realized they were fulfilling a dream she'd long harbored, that she'd be successful in this world, and people would look up to her with respect. 2 small children shyly approached her, with their mother trailing behind.
"Are you a real pilot? What kind of plane do you fly?"
She crouched down to their level. Her smile was genuine and inviting. Her voice carried a comforting warmth. "Yes, I'm a real pilot. I fly a helicopter." The children's eyes got big. Then they barraged her with questions about flying and what it's like being a pilot. Katie's natural empathy shone through as she patiently answered each question. Then the boy asked,
"How did you get that scar?"
Before Katie could answer, his embarrassed mother said,
"I'm so sorry."
as she yanked him out the door, scolding him. Mrs. Thompson, the principal of the local elementary school, was in the store and observed Katie's interaction with the kids. She approached Katie with a friendly smile.
"Katie Whitefeather, you're quite the talk of the town. I'm Mrs. Thompson from Pine Creek Elementary. Your journey is an inspiration to us all."
"Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I didn't know people knew my name."
"Yes, I've heard your name at least 3 times in the last 2 weeks. People are talking about you as a positive role model."
Katie beamed with pride.
"I was wondering, would you be willing to speak at our school assembly? It would mean a lot, especially to our Native American students, to show them what they can achieve."
With a deep sense of fulfillment, Katie said, "Absolutely, Mrs. Thompson. I'd be honored." After the principal left, Katie paused among the colorful displays of the shop, reflecting on the path that brought her here. She felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Her dream of being respected and recognized in her community was now a vivid reality. Thank you, Lord, for this moment. After buying her uncle's gift, Katie stepped outside into the sunlight, her heart light and full. She savored this experience of admiration and respect from her community, fully aware that it wouldn't last. May 11th. After her 24-hour shift, Katie stopped at the grocery store to buy a few groceries. She didn't notice the prices as she deposited 5 pounds of potatoes into her cart, followed by a bag of frozen peas, a half-gallon of milk, and a pound of butter. At checkout, her mouth dropped open when the total showed $87.98. Wow, that's a shock. While Katie swiped her debit card, she noticed the young woman cashier cowering like a battered puppy. Poor girl. She's probably been on the receiving end of people's sticker shock all day. Katie reassured her, saying, "I know these prices aren't your fault. I hope you have a good day." Handing Katie a receipt, the cashier smiled, but they both knew her job wouldn't get any easier as prices continued to climb. Next, Katie drove to the gas station. Regular unleaded gasoline was $21.99 per gallon, but the pumps wouldn't accept her card. She went inside to prepay. As she neared, she noticed the greasy, long-haired attendant enjoying how good she looked in her flight suit. His trance broke when he saw her scar. "My card isn't working at the pump. Can I pay here to fill her up?"
Sorry, ma'am. Our card machines just went down, so we're only taking cash until they come back up.
Katie had $50 in her wallet, which she gave him. I'll take $50 worth. The gas pump stopped after Katie put 2.27 gallons in her old truck. I'm glad we're on an island and I'm not driving cross-country. When Katie got home, she showed Andy her receipts. Can you believe the price of groceries? And what about gas? When I passed the same gas station yesterday, the sign said it was $14.99 per gallon. It's gone up $7 per gallon in one day.
Remember when I said if people can't get the things they need at any price, they'll be getting the pitchforks out? We're now entering the final stages of hyperinflation and currency collapse, and the government knows it. The president is going to address the nation about the situation at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Another thing, when I got to the gas station, the attendant said they couldn't accept cards for payment. He said the system was down.
Right. Apparently inflation is out of control and the entire credit system just locked up. Nobody will be able to use plastic for any transactions until they get the system unfrozen. No ATM withdrawals either, since that takes a card. If people don't have cash, they're going to be out of luck until they get it fixed.
Stunned, Katie's mouth hung open in shock and disbelief.
They know they've got to fix this quick or the peasants will revolt within a day or two. Prices being out of control was bad enough. But now, even if people have money, they can't buy anything. Except for crazy people like me, nobody keeps cash on hand anymore.
Maybe you're not so crazy after all. Andy, Katie, and Ethan gathered to watch the president's address to a joint session of Congress at 4 p.m. Alaska Standard Time. At 4:10, Ethan said,
Why can't they ever start on time? It's disrespectful to millions of us who've dropped everything to hear his speech. Don't they respect us? Or are they just incompetent? We'd be fired if we were always late.
It's a mind game. They do it on purpose to show their superiority to us peons. Elites think of us like dogs waiting for their table scraps. They don't consider us as equals.
Andy's words hit Ethan with a concept he'd never considered. Katie saw his shock as his eyes looked down, deep in thought. It's painful when you start to see the truth of things. At 4:20, the president stood at the podium and began reading the teleprompter. His tone was upbeat, his words carefully chosen to calm and reassure a fearful nation.
Today we stand at a pivotal moment, and I bring a positive message of hope and change.
Hope and change? Did Obama write this?
As I'm sure you're all aware by now, our nation is experiencing a financial crisis. After conferring with Congress and our international partners, I have a solution to share with you. Let me start by describing the current situation, and then I'll tell you our plan to solve this crisis. Last week, the Federal Reserve Chairman informed me they've expended all their weapons in their fight against inflation. As a result, he said to expect the dollar's hyperinflation, which will evaporate worldwide confidence in the dollar. Today, a global loss of confidence in the dollar triggered our financial credit system to freeze up. As a result, American citizens and businesses cannot use credit to buy or sell anything, not food, gasoline, heating oil, nothing.
As the president spoke, the camera panned the 435 somber faces of Congress.
And since the dollar is the world reserve currency, this credit freeze is global, affecting every nation that trades in dollars. As of today, we must face the fact that the dollar's global reign is over. If we want to buy or sell, we have no choice. We must transition our nation's antiquated economic system to one that can prosper us all in the 21st century global economy. This crisis wasn't a surprise for my administration. For the last 5 months, our financial experts have been working diligently with their international colleagues to craft a dollar transition plan. I'm confident the plan they developed will quickly and efficiently transition us from a dollar-based economy to a global central bank digital currency, or CBDC.
The screen showed a global CBDC implementation status map as the president continued speaking.
As you can see, this map was last dated in April 2023. Since then, we've made strides to test CBDCs in our banks, and we're now ready to upgrade our status to the live retail CBDC level, along with many other nations worldwide. Here's how the plan will affect every person and business in America. To immediately get our economy unfrozen, tonight the dollars that are currently in all your bank accounts will be converted to United Nations Unidigi currency units, which are commonly known as UDs. Starting tomorrow, your existing credit and debit cards should work again, except you'll be spending UDs instead of dollars. Of course, if you hold cash in paper or coins, it will still be good for a time until our dollar transition plan is complete. There are many advantages to being in the global economy and using UDs instead of dollars. The biggest advantage is that UDs are backed by gold, so it's a stable currency. There won't be any inflation.
Ethan said.
No inflation. That'll be good.
Uncle Andy looked at him but held his peace.
Speaking of inflation, until our economy stabilizes using the new currency, the prices of all goods and services must be frozen at their current level. Please report all suspected violations of this price freeze to your local law enforcement agency. As soon as possible, we'll lift the price freeze so that the free market can once again set prices based on supply and demand. Obviously, there'll be growing pains and glitches as we make this transition, but together, we'll get through this. I'm confident that after we see the benefits of the global central bank digital currency, we'll all wonder why we didn't make this change a long time ago. Finally, rest assured that your money is safe and the system will be restored to normal function tomorrow. By 6 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, your credit and debit cards will function normally.
Uncle Andy stood up.
This isn't just about money. The USA we knew no longer exists. It's over. He just surrendered America to the globalists.
May 18th, 9 p.m., Uncle Andy's cabin. A week later, Katie, Andy, and Ethan returned from town during a blustery spring rainstorm. Katie switched on the cabin's solar-powered lamps.
Let's get some heat going.
Andy crouched by the wood stove. Striking a match, he used a rolled-up $20 bill to light the kindling. It flickered like the last heartbeat of the old America. I remember when we used to save every dollar like it was a piece of the future.
Yeah, now they're fire starters. Our future is uncertain.
Ethan stood by the window, silhouetted against the fading light outside.
On the bright side, the CBDC has already stopped price inflation and gotten the credit system moving again.
Yeah, but at what cost? The UN is already dictating its laws on America, laws that our Constitution would never have allowed.
What do you mean?
I'll give you 3 examples. They're implementing financial surveillance of all CBDC transactions. We're no longer free to speak the truth if it's politically incorrect, and civilians are only allowed to have certain kinds of guns for hunting.
I guess I haven't been watching the news.
You won't hear these things on the official propaganda outlets, and the UN is only getting started. Vegan snowflakes and billionaires are actively pushing to outlaw eating meat altogether. Instead, they'll have us eating processed foods made with insects as our protein source. Then with meat outlawed, the UN will say there's no reason for Americans to own guns for hunting any longer, so they'll confiscate them.
By his expression, Katie saw Ethan was skeptical. She poked his ribs. You asked for it. He's just getting started, and he's on a roll now.
Once they confiscate the guns, only the police and military will have firearms. In the last 20 years, police departments look more and more like little armies, with armored personnel carriers, body armor, and assault weapons. Meanwhile, liberal administrations intentionally purged our military of conservatives. Anyone who used the wrong pronouns or refused to go along with the transgender delusion. Conservative military officers and sergeants got replaced with amoral yes men. Now our military is populated with spineless wimps who believe morality and truth are totally relative, depending on whatever social fad is in vogue. Like Nazis, they'll do whatever they're ordered to do.
Ethan nodded. He'd seen the military being transformed. Katie thought, yep, Major Strickner and Dingle, amoral yes men.
These soldiers will be the enforcement goons for a totalitarian global government. Bible prophecy describes this end-time government as a terrible beast that's exceedingly strong with great iron teeth. It'll devour and break in pieces everyone who opposes it. It'll be worse than the governments of Hitler, Stalin, and Mao, and it has 10 horns.
Andy looked at Ethan.
How many regional governments does the UN have?
10?
Katie saw the light of recognition on Ethan's face. Andy watched the flames grow inside the wood stove.
They think they can just reset the world, erase what it means to be American, to be free.
Katie moved closer, her shadow merging with his by the stove. They can't reset us, Uncle. They can't take who we are, what we believe. Her eyes met his. We'll find a way through this. We always do.
The earth itself is rebelling. For 6,000 years, creation's been groaning, waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. It's got to be coming soon.
May 23rd. In the cozy warmth of the Blue Mountain coffee shop, Katie and Uncle Andy sat transfixed by the evening news on the cafe's TV. A solemn news anchor detailed escalating conflicts and crises around the globe.
In the wake of America's fall from superpower status, we're seeing a rapid and tragic shift in global dynamics. Nations are scrambling to fill the power vacuum, leading to widespread instability.
The scene cut to a map, showing various hotspots around the world. Katie noted these countries highlighted in red: Taiwan, South Korea, Israel, Iran, Argentina, Nigeria, South Sudan, Pakistan, India, and every European country that bordered Russia. The next day, Katie and Ethan were on standby, sitting in the KMS ready room. They had a news channel muted on the TV, so they could monitor the headlines without having to listen. A large, bright red breaking news banner scrolled across the TV screen, catching Ethan's attention. Then the screen showed a nuclear mushroom cloud.
Oh no, what's going on?
He clicked the volume on. Katie looked up from reading a flight manual. What the? The reporter held his finger to his ear, listening to someone in his earpiece. Then he spoke.
This is breaking news. The religious, ethnic, and political conflict between India and Pakistan has escalated into an all-out war between these nuclear powers. Initial, unconfirmed reports say multiple cities and government installations in both countries have been destroyed by nuclear weapons. These two nations have a combined population of approximately 1.7 billion people, or 21% of humanity, so casualties are likely to reach into the tens or hundreds of millions.
He paused, listening to his earpiece again. He nodded, then spoke to the TV audience.
Depending on how many nuclear weapons are used and whether they were detonated in the air or on the ground, toxic radioactive fallout may also affect the crops, animals, and people in nations downwind from the conflict.
He pointed to a map of the southeastern quarter of the Asian continent.
The area of potential radioactive fallout includes southern China and all of Southeast Asia, including Nepal, Bhutan, Tibet, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Depending on the volume of fallout and winds, the Philippines and Taiwan may be affected as well. Again, this is breaking news. The religious and ethnic.
Ethan clicked the mute button, then looked at Katie. Both shook their head in unbelief. She envisioned the massive cities of Kolkata, Karachi, Mumbai, and Lahore, where over 50 million men, women, and children may have just been incinerated in the blink of an eye. 30 minutes later, new images of fiery devastation flashed across the screen. Ethan unmuted the TV. Katie and Ethan watched as the TV reporter said,
The U.S. government just provided these satellite images to global news agencies, showing the extent of devastation in India and Pakistan. As you can see, major cities, each with millions of men, women, and children, are now reduced to smoking ash and rubble. We're now joined by Colonel Jake Wright, our military news analyst. Colonel, what will be the downstream effects of this terrible war on survivors in these countries?
The colonel looked emotional, almost in tears. His voice quivered.
It's an unprecedented human disaster. My contacts in the Defense Department advise that even rural places that weren't bombed in India and Pakistan will be irradiated and unfit for habitation. Their water, crops, and food supplies will all be contaminated by radioactive fallout. There are millions of survivors outside the cities in these countries. Tragically, the vast majority are doomed to die of starvation, disease, and radiation poisoning.
As feared, over the next 2 weeks, winds carried radioactive death to southern China and all of Southeast Asia. From India and Pakistan eastward to China and Vietnam, the combination of radioactive fallout and millions of unburied human and animal corpses polluted food and water sources. Before long, cholera, typhoid fever, dysentery, and hepatitis spread like wildfire, killing millions who survived the blasts and radioactive fallout. Around the globe, other conflicts destroyed or contaminated much of the world's wheat and rice croplands, resulting in global famines and mass starvation, especially in Asia and Africa. By the time the dust of all these events settled, war, disease, and famine erased over 2 billion people from the earth. The India-Pakistan war was terrible, but they both had relatively small nuclear arsenals. In contrast, if the arsenals of the US, Russia, or China were unleashed, they'd destroy all life on Earth. So, hopefully, they'll see how terrible these weapons are, and there'll never again be such a war. June 13th. Andy awoke to 2 major news stories. He sat at the kitchen table, drinking his last cup of hot coffee. As Katie emerged from her bedroom, wearing flannel pajamas and moosehead slippers, the TV newsreader said,
As we come on the air, we're following 2 developing news stories. First, the People's Republic of China just invaded the island nation of Taiwan, and second, the Lake Taupo supervolcano in New Zealand has erupted.
Good morning, Princess.
Still sleepy, she responded with a silent wave. She poured her coffee and sat down. Is this the last of the coffee?
Yep. After this pot, we'll be drinking mint and sassafras tea that we harvest ourselves.
Relishing every sip, she joined Andy in watching the latest breaking news. When a commercial started, Andy clicked the mute button.
China's invasion is not a surprise, especially now that America's military is under UN control. But this supervolcano could affect the entire planet, polluting the atmosphere and blocking light from the sun.
Now fully awake, Katie said. It's in the southern hemisphere, so that should help minimize the effects here, shouldn't it?
It will for a while, but eventually pollution in the atmosphere and oceans will spread worldwide. It could affect global weather and crops, resulting in more shortages and more famines.
We sure didn't need that.
Yeah, we've now seen the fulfillment of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th seals of Revelation. Jesus said these were just the beginning of birth pangs for the birth of the coming age. Soon, the 5th seal will bring worldwide persecution against Christians.
The book of Revelation calls these events birth pains. Birth pains are not random chaos, and they are not the end of the story. They are the beginning of something new. War may shake the nations. Famine may empty the shelves. Death may darken the earth. But none of it shakes the throne of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Jesus Christ. The real question is not whether the world will tremble. The question is whether disciples will overcome. If you want to study the scriptures behind this episode, I've created a free companion guide. You'll find the link in the description. And if you're new here, the book you're listening to is entitled Birth Pangs of the End Times. It's available free at thomasnoss.com. Until next time, stand in faith.